I'd been planning the move for almost 6 months, saved up the deposit, lined up the new job at a hospital across town, drove the U-Haul up from Portland, signed the lease on a Saturday, and walked into apartment 6B, feeling, for the first time in my adult life, like the door I was unlocking actually belonged to me. 6 days later, I came home from a late grocery run on a Thursday night. The hallway light outside my unit was the only one on the floor that was out. And inside my own apartment, the hallway closet door was open 6 inches when I had left it closed. I'm Priya, 31, registered dietitian. I'd put in 3 years at a clinic in Portland before the Seattle offer came through. 6 straight months of meal plan templates and patient charts, and a Dunkin' run at 5:30 most weekday mornings. The building was a mid-rise off Capitol Hill in Seattle. The listing had said key fob only access. I had asked the leasing agent twice whether the locks were rekeyed between tenants. She had said yes. She had said they always were. The hallway light was out as I stepped off the elevator. The fixtures on the rest of the floor were fine. I noticed it because the carpeting in this older building shows pale where the overhead light catches it, and that part of the carpet was darker than I remembered. I walked the 20-some feet to 6B carrying 2 grocery bags. Key in the door, locks turned, I stepped in. I dropped 1 bag at the counter. I went to the hallway closet to hang my jacket. The closet door was already open 6 inches. I had closed it that morning. I remember closing it because the closet had the unit's electrical panel inside, and I had been double-checking which breakers controlled the kitchen. Inside, on the lower shelf, was a folded gray sweatshirt. Men's large. Tag still on. Not mine. I want to be careful about how I describe what I did next, because I have thought about it many times. Honestly, I did not panic. And the thing is, I have replayed that decision 100 times, wondering whether I should have. I think because I had not yet built up enough lived-in time to understand the apartment as fully mine. The sweatshirt felt like something a previous tenant had forgotten, which is not unreasonable, except the leasing office had supposedly cleaned and walked the unit before I signed. I went to the bathroom to wash my hands. The trash can next to the toilet had a paper coffee cup in it. Stumptown. I do not drink Stumptown. I had not bought coffee in 3 days because I'd been on a hospital orientation schedule. The receipt taped to the side of the cup was dated 3 days before I moved in. I turned to the mirror over the sink. There was a wedding band finger smudge on the lower right of the mirror. I had cleaned that mirror the day before because I cannot stand smudges. The smudge was the kind you get when somebody braces their hand on the counter and lifts up to look at themselves. I walked through the rest of the apartment with the lights on. In the utility nook behind the water heater, I found a phone charging cable plugged into a wall outlet I had never used, going to a small power bank on the floor against the baseboard. The power bank was 3/4 full. In the kitchen drawer where I'd put my coffee filters, I found a tube of unflavored lip balm and a single key on a small key ring, with no marker. The key was not mine. The lip balm was not mine. I called the property management emergency line from the kitchen. I called the police non-emergency line. The dispatcher said an officer could come by, but it would be at least 90 minutes given the time. The building super came up in 22 minutes with a master fob. He pulled the key fob access log on his tablet. Only my fob had accessed 6B since the move-in. None of the building maintenance fobs had been onto 6B in the 6 days. The previous tenant's fob had been deactivated 2 months ago when they moved out. He showed me on the tablet. Active fobs for 6B to 1. Mine. The building system, however, had been last fully rekeyed in 2019. That meant the previous tenant's physical fob, before the deactivation, was capable of accessing many doors in the building. Or, the super said carefully, somebody could have made a copy. The super walked the floor with me. The stairwell doors on both ends were closed. The hallway light fixture above 6B had its bulb out. He checked. The bulb was unscrewed, not failed, like somebody had loosened it by a turn. He retightened it. The hallway light came back on. I asked him to pull the building's camera review. He said he could, but the hallway camera outside 6B had been listed as intermittently offline for the past 9 months. Building maintenance was scheduled to fix it. They had not gotten to it. The lobby camera and the parking garage gate camera were working. The next morning, while I sat in my unit with the deadbolt thrown and the kitchen chair pushed against the door, the building managers reviewed footage. They came back to me at noon. The same hooded figure, navy hoodie, gray sweatpants, white sneakers, head down, had tailed a resident's car through the parking garage gate on 4 separate nights over the previous 2 weeks. Each time the figure had walked directly to the elevator and gone to the 6th floor. Each time the hallway camera, the one outside 6B, had registered as offline. The last visit had been 3 days before I moved in. The figure was never identified on the building cameras. Police took a report. They never matched a face. The building rekeyed the entire master fob system that following Wednesday. They fixed the hallway camera that Thursday. The leasing agent who had told me the locks were rekeyed had been wrong, or had been told by someone else who had been wrong. The building's policy memo afterwards required physical rekey of every unit between tenants, not just fob deactivation. The building manager also pulled, 2 days later, the lobby camera retroactively going back 6 weeks before my move-in date. The same hooded figure had been on lobby camera 19 times in those 6 weeks. Each visit had followed the same pattern. Tail a resident's car through the garage gate, take the elevator, exit on 6. The hallway camera intermittent offline window had begun approximately 10 months earlier, when the previous tenant had moved into 6B and had widened in frequency over the course of that previous tenancy. The previous tenant, when the management company called them, said they had never noticed anything unusual. They had moved out for a job in Chicago. They did not know who the figure was. They had no theory. I broke the lease in week 4. I forfeited half my security deposit. I moved to a different building with a Montrap entry and an actual badge gate. I will not take a ground floor unit or an end of hallway unit anymore. I sleep with my bedroom deadbolt thrown. I had been planning the move for 6 months, and on the lease signing day, I had genuinely felt that my life was finally starting fresh. The apartment was someone else's life that I had been walking around inside of, without knowing, for 6 days. I do not know what they had been doing in it during the 2 weeks before I arrived, and I do not know whether the sweatshirt on the lower shelf had been there, waiting for them to come back.
I'd worked 3 night shifts in a row at the hospital, and I was supposed to sleep in that Sunday morning. I'd come home from my last shift at 1:30 in the morning, eaten a microwave dinner, fallen asleep on the couch with my cats on top of me. At 3:42, there was a knock at the door, 2 raps, and then 3 more. I'm Tomas, 36, ER nurse in Phoenix. I live on the 14th floor of a residential high-rise downtown. 1 bedroom, 2 cats, top floor unit. Because the building's roof mechanical room is above me, no apartment above mine. I had been in the unit 4 years. I knew the building well. I'd stopped at the In-N-Out off Camelback for a double-double on the way home from my last shift, ate it on the couch with the cats watching, and crashed right after. The cat startled off the couch when the knock came. I sat up, half asleep. Knocking at 3:42 does not happen to me. The building has a front desk during business hours, intercom only after that. Visitors need to be buzzed in by a resident on the buzzer log. I had not buzzed anyone in. I walked to the door. I put my eye to the peephole. There was a man in a navy jacket with a logo patch on the chest I did not recognize. He had a hood up and a baseball cap on under the hood. He was holding a clipboard. He said, voice through the door, "Maintenance, water leak from the apartment above. I need to come in to check your ceiling." I did not say anything for a few seconds. Honestly, the apartment above me does not exist. The mechanical room is above me, but it is not an apartment. And water leaks from a mechanical room would be diagnosed from above, not from inside my unit. I do not know whether he was lying. Maybe he had picked my unit at random and didn't know I was top floor. Maybe he was hoping I'd be sleepy enough to open the door without checking. I should say, in his line of work, either explanation is the same to him. I said through the door that I'd need to call building management to verify first. I kept my voice level. He said, "Building emergency. Can't wait." They sent me direct. I said, "Okay, give me 1 moment," and I stepped back from the door. I picked up the cordless from the kitchen and dialed the building security extension on the unit intercom. Security answered. I said quietly that there was a man at my door in a maintenance jacket claiming a leak from above. I said I was on the top floor. There was nothing above me except mechanical. Security said they'd send someone up. I went back to the peephole. He was still there. His left hand reached out and tried my door handle. Slowly. Once, then a second time, then a third. The handle did not turn. My deadbolt was set. The strike plate was reinforced. He stepped back from the door. He looked down the hallway to the left, then to the right. He turned and walked toward the stairwell. I took a picture through the peephole with my phone while he was walking away. I picked up my phone and called 911. I told the dispatcher what had happened. I gave them the unit number and the building. Building security got to my floor 7 minutes after my first call. The hallway was empty. Phoenix PD arrived 11 minutes after that. I showed them the peephole photo on my phone. They sent it up. Security pulled the elevator camera log on the laptop in their office. The hooded figure had taken the elevator from the ground floor up to floor 14 at 341. He had not entered any other unit. He had walked straight to my door. 3 minutes after my front door rejection, he had taken the stairwell down to the ground floor. He had exited through a side service door, one that was supposed to be alarmed. It had been propped earlier in the evening. A piece of folded cardboard wedged in the latch. Building maintenance had not checked the side door since 5 p.m. Officers dusted the door handle and the door frame around it for prints. They asked me to come into the precinct the next morning to give a longer statement. I did. 9 days later, the latent prints came back. They matched a man in the FBI biometric database with a 2017 aggravated assault conviction in a different state. He had been out for 3 years. He had moved to Phoenix from a different city in the past summer. He was not formally on any monitoring list. His probation had ended. 2 days after the print match, he was arrested at a building 14 miles from mine, attempting the same push-in pattern. He had knocked on a 4th floor unit at 3:20 in the morning, claimed a leak from above. A woman opened the door. He had shoved her aside, grabbed her purse from the entry table, and was leaving when her partner came out of the bedroom with a baseball bat. He had run. Security caught him in the stairwell. He was charged with attempted residential burglary at my building, criminal trespass at mine, and the second one, simple assault at the second incident, and carrying a concealed weapon without a permit. He had a folding knife with a 4-inch blade in his back pocket the second time. The DA filed both buildings into one indictment because the pattern was so consistent. He was held without bond at his first arraignment. 6 months later, he pleaded to 7 years in state custody, plus mandatory psych eval, plus extended supervision after release. The investigator who handled the case file told me one more detail from the indictment that I did not want and have not forgotten. The clipboard he had been holding at my door had nothing useful on it. The single-page clip to it was a printed schematic of a 14th floor unit, but it had not been a schematic of my unit. It had been a generic high-rise floor plan from a real estate listing site, with the door positions marked. The detective said the clipboard was a prop. He said the maintenance jacket was a prop. The logo patch on the chest had been heat-pressed at home. The police lab had identified the adhesive backing as a craft store product, not a uniform shop product. The detective said the jacket and the clipboard would have been enough, at 3:42 in the morning, for most people to take a half step back from the door, without thinking, which was the only physical opening he needed. I switched to day shift 2 months after the knock. I installed my own wide-angle wireless peephole camera that records to a cloud account. I added a chain lock and a steel security bar. I sleep with my bedroom door locked. I had been planning to sleep in that Sunday morning for a week. What stays with me is that the man knew which side door to prop. He knew the elevator camera angle. He knew the building's intercom system would not let me see his face on camera until security pulled the elevator log later. He also did not know which floor was actually the top floor. He had been ready, but only ready up to a point. The detective said most people open the door after a few seconds because they want to believe the person on the other side has a reason to be there. He said that was the whole reason the pattern worked.
Looking back, I should have known by Tuesday. 3 nights before the birthday gathering, I'd been planning all week. 8 friends, 8 p.m., a few bottles of wine, the lemon cake my mom always makes. A folding 3-step ladder appeared on my motion-triggered corridor camera, set up against the retaining wall behind my building, with a man on the top step looking straight at my ground floor bedroom window. I had not slept properly in a month. Somebody had been watching my apartment. I had spent 4 nights setting up motion-triggered cameras in the corridor behind my building. By the time my Saturday morning came around, I had 3 nights of footage. The 4th night was the night I caught him. I was 24 then, a junior architect at a mid-sized firm in Atlanta. I'd grown up on sweet tea and Cracker Barrel Sunday breakfasts in a town 2 hours south, and I had a ground floor unit in a garden-style complex. I'd chosen it for the natural light at my drafting table by the window. I'd been in the unit 2 months when the feeling started, that specific sensation of being watched at very specific moments, at my drafting table after dark, getting out of my car in the parking lot, sitting on the couch with the lamp on, blinds at the angle I liked them. I want to be careful here because feeling watched is not the same as being watched, and I know that. Honestly, I told myself I was being paranoid for almost 3 weeks before I did anything about it. I had told a friend at work about it. She had told me her cousin had felt the same thing for a year, and it had turned out to be nothing. I had not told my mother. To be fair, I had also not told the leasing office because there was nothing concrete to tell. What changed for me was the architectural training. I had taken a CAD class my last year of undergrad on residential sightline analysis, how exterior windows and interior arrangement create or close off visibility. I had not thought of it as anything beyond a class. After about 3 weeks of the feeling, I sat down one Saturday morning with my apartment's floor plan from the lease packet and the satellite view of the complex from Google. I mapped sightlines. I worked out where, from outside my building, someone could see my drafting station with my blinds at the angle I kept them. There was exactly one position. It was a planted bush corridor between my building and the next building over, behind a 3-foot landscaping retaining wall. From that corridor, with the right elevation, a few feet up, you could see almost the whole length of my drafting table through the gap between 2 slats of my blinds. I walked the corridor on a Saturday afternoon. The bushes were tall enough at the retaining wall to hide someone crouching. The wall was 3 feet, low enough to crouch behind. I knew immediately. I went back inside and emailed my building manager, asking permission to set up 2 outdoor wireless cameras with motion trigger in the corridor for personal safety reasons. He emailed back the same afternoon and said yes, please, in writing. I bought 2 cameras. I set them up that Sunday night. They streamed to my phone over the complex Wi-Fi. First night, nothing. The motion detector triggered on a few squirrels and 1 stray cat. No human. Second night, around 2:15 a.m., a figure passed through the corridor low to the bushes. Hood up, dark clothing. He walked through without stopping. He did not look at the camera, but he did glance toward my building. I did not see his face. Third night, the figure came back. This time, he was carrying a folding 3-step ladder. He opened it against the retaining wall. He stepped up. He stood for almost 4 full minutes, looking toward my building. From the camera angle, his head was turned precisely toward my window. He climbed down. He folded the ladder. He walked away. I had screenshots. I had video. I had a timestamp. I went to the police that morning. The detective on intake said this was solid documentation. She said she would coordinate with patrol. They wanted to wait 1 more night for the figure to come back, rather than alerting him by sending uniforms to walk the corridor and possibly miss him. I agreed. The 4th night was Saturday, my birthday gathering night. I had told my friends to come at 8. I served the cake. We talked. They left by 11. I cleaned up. I did not turn on the drafting table lamp. I sat on my couch in the dark, in pajamas, with both cameras streaming to my phone. 2 officers were staged in unmarked cars 2 streets back, on the radio with dispatch, ready to move in. At 2:50 in the morning, the figure entered the corridor with the ladder. He set it up against the retaining wall. He climbed. He stood. I called 911. I stayed on the line. I narrated to dispatch in real time. He's on the ladder. He's turned toward my window. He's pulling something out of his jacket pocket. Looks like a phone. He's holding it up. He's taking a photo. Dispatch relayed to the officers. The officers approached from behind the next building, around the corner, on foot, silent. I watched on my phone. They rounded the corner with weapons drawn. He saw them. He turned. He stepped off the ladder, kicked it over, and ran. They caught him after 35 yards. In his jacket pocket, they found a small notebook with sketches of 3 other ground floor windows in the complex. One sketch had the unit number, mine. The other 2 had floor plans estimated from the angle of the window, like he had been working out where the bed was in each one. He had a prior peeping conviction 4 years earlier in a different county where he had failed to register as a sex offender. He had moved counties to slip the registry. He was charged with prowling, peeping into windows, criminal trespass, and the registration failure prior. The notebook brought a 4th charge for possession of evidence of intent. He was held on $25,000 bond. He was convicted at a jury trial 4 months later, sentenced to 14 months county jail plus 3 years probation plus mandatory sex offender registry, this time properly enforced. The prosecutor walked me through the rest of the notebook before the trial. Beyond the 3 window sketches, the notebook had a hand-drawn map of the entire complex, each building labeled, the corridors marked, and the locations of the 4 building cameras the leasing office had told me were active, circled with question marks. He had been working out which corridors had no camera coverage. He had been right about 3 of the 4. The notebook also contained dates and times, entries going back almost 5 months, corresponding to visits he had made to the corridor at varying times of night. He had been walking the corridor twice a week, average, for 5 months. He had not been climbing the ladder every time. The notebook called that observation only some nights. The complex installed motion-triggered exterior lighting on all ground floor corridors after I testified at sentencing. They waived my transfer fee. I moved to a 3rd floor unit 3 weeks later. 6 months of therapy. I don't draft at home at night anymore. I do it at the firm. My renter's insurance is more expensive now because I added smart home security. I have the page count from the court record of the notebook. 3 windows. Mine had been one of them. I still walk past the other 2 on weekends. I can identify the neighbors who lived behind those blinds. They have no idea, and I have not told them. I have asked the prosecutor twice if that is something I'm supposed to do. She has told me both times, gently, that it is not. So, I was about to renew my lease for another 2 years, a building I'd been happy in for 4. I came home at 11:30 Saturday night from a friend's birthday at a wine bar on the Bowery. That was when I noticed something. The building front buzzer code had been used 6 minutes before I got home. The resident who would normally have buzzed someone in at that time was visiting her parents in New Jersey for the weekend, because she had told me that on Wednesday. I had a Sunday morning brunch reservation with a friend at 10. I was 30 steps from my apartment door. I'll call myself Mira. Lower East Side, 9-story walk-up, plus an elevator that always smells faintly like the bodega downstairs. I had been in Unit 4D for 4 years. Most of my neighbors I knew by face. A few I knew well. Yvette on 7G I knew very well. I had a habit, taught to me by a friend who worked for a domestic violence nonprofit, of checking the building's online buzzer log on my phone every couple of days. The friend had told me, 4 weeks before that Saturday, that for any woman living alone in a New York walk-up, no harm in writing down anomalies. Buzzer codes used at unusual hours, packages on the wrong floor, strangers in the lobby. She had given me a small spiral notebook. I had been writing in it. I had also seen the same man in front of my building on 3 separate Saturdays over the past 6 weeks. Late 30s, average height, baseball cap, dark jacket. Not memorable individually. I had noted him in the notebook because he had been there the 3rd time, after the 2nd time, after the 1st time. That Saturday night at 11:30, I rode the elevator up to 4. I stepped off. My hallway was dim. One of the 4 overhead fixtures was out, but it had been out for 2 weeks waiting on building maintenance. I walked the 20 feet to 4D. I had my key out 3 steps from the door. I always do. What I noticed, with the key 6 inches from the lock, was a strip of clear packing tape across my peephole. From the outside, applied flush. If I hadn't slowed down before inserting the key, I would not have seen it. The tape was clean, recently applied. I pulled my hand back from the lock. I did not insert the key. Honestly, I do not remember making the decision. I took 2 steps back from the door, turned around, and walked back toward the elevator. The elevator door is a polished steel panel, the kind that gives you a vague reflection of the hallway behind you. I looked at the panel as I approached. In the reflection, I saw a figure standing in the shadow at the far end of the hall, where the stairwell door is, between me, technically, and the elevator I was walking toward. He stepped forward into the dim light of the hallway. Baseball cap, dark jacket, average height. The same man. I do not remember making the decision. I turned and ran for the opposite stairwell, the one at the end of the hall closest to where I had been at 4D. I got there in under 4 seconds. I yanked the stairwell door open. I ran through. I tried to slam it. His arm was through. The door hit his elbow. He had moved faster than I would have predicted. I leaned my full weight into the door. I slammed it twice more. He yelled. Something metallic clattered on the linoleum on the hallway side. He pulled his arm back. The door clicked shut. I bolted up the stairs. I went to 7. I went to 7G. I pounded on Yvette's door. Yvette opened her door in pajamas. She pulled me in, locked it, dead-bolted it, and called 911. She kept me on the floor of her entryway, with a kitchen towel pressed against my forearm. It was bleeding from a 4-inch cut along the inside. I had not noticed it until that moment. NYPD arrived in 8 minutes. They cleared my hallway. They cleared the stairwell. They cleared the lobby. They found him in the lobby, attempting to walk out the front door. Building front had been propped earlier by something he had used to enter. A folded piece of cardboard, wedged in the buzzer door magnetic latch. He had a folding pocket knife in his back pocket, the sheath of which was empty. The knife itself had been recovered by responding officers from the floor outside my apartment door, where it had clattered when I slammed the stairwell door on his arm. In his jacket pocket, they found a printed photograph of me, folded into a square, taken about 6 weeks ago at the coffee place across the street from my building. He had been holding a phone with 3 months of saved photos. My front door, my building's exterior, the bar 2 blocks away, and one of me getting out of an Uber 4 Saturdays ago at 1 a.m. He had been arrested in 2024 in the same neighborhood for stalking a different woman. She had been granted an order of protection against him at that time. She had never lifted it. The order had been pre-existing and still active. He was charged with felony stalking, criminal trespass, attempted assault, carrying a weapon without a permit, and violation of pre-existing order of protection. The DA's office subpoenaed his cell records. 3 months of cell tower data showed his phone in proximity to my building's block on 17 separate evenings, including all 3 Saturdays I had noted in my spiral notebook. They subpoenaed the building's camera review of the prior 5 months. He had been in the lobby on 6 separate occasions when I had been out. Twice he had walked the hallway outside my apartment. He pleaded 6 months later to a 5-year state prison term, plus GPS monitoring on release, plus a lifetime no-contact order covering both me and the 2024 victim. The judge added, at sentencing, that the tape on the peephole had factored into the attempted assault charge. The tape implied he had intended to be inside the unit before I returned, not to confront me in the hallway. The DA's investigation also uncovered something I did not know about during the trial. He had 3 photos saved on his phone of the inside of my apartment hallway, taken from approximately the position of the stairwell door looking toward 4D. The phone's metadata put the photos at different times across the preceding 9 weeks. He had been inside my hallway before, 3 times, when I had been at work. The building's hallway camera on 4 had also been intermittently offline during all 3 windows. The DA said it was unclear whether the camera had been physically tampered with by him or had simply failed during those windows. The building had no record of maintenance tickets on that camera during the affected nights. He had said in his proffer interview that he had used the same propped side service door each time. The building had not checked the door against the rest of the building access log. I had a fractured right ring finger from the stairwell door slam and 4 stitches on my forearm where the knife edge had grazed during the scuffle. 9 months of weekly therapy and 4 months of EMDR. I moved boroughs 3 months after the trial. I work fully remote now. I carry Saber Red and a tactical alert pendant on a chain that pages 911, my sister, and Yvette directly. I changed my cell number, deleted my social media, wear a sapphire on my right hand. What I keep going back to is the tape on the peephole. He had been on my floor before me that night. He had taped over my own ability to see out. The DA had said, gently, that the tape suggested he had planned to be inside the unit before I came back. He had not expected me to slow down in the hallway, and I do not know exactly what about that night made me slow down at all.